The United Party of Canada is relatively new. Last year, the UP leader, Grant Abraham, ran in the by-election we hosted, and now we have local boy and retired DRPS officer Clint Cole carrying the United Party flag into battle. Clint joins us today to meet me at exit 425. Today's guest at exit 425
in the main corridor of exit 425.
Local politicians to connect with families.
What are some unique challenges?
Thanks very much, Steve, for having me.
Exit 425. It's where we live. Clint, welcome to exit 425. Thanks for meeting me here.
Thank you too, Steve. I appreciate this opportunity to broadcast with you on your podcast, and I look forward to having more communication with you in the future.
What are your connections to Bowanville Oshawa North, and how were you involved in Bowanville Oshawa North prior to this effort to run for office? We know that there's a difference between residing in the riding and actually living in the riding.
I've lived here since 1987 and continue to live here, raised 5 children here in Durham and in this location. We really do like it here in Durham. Or we would have moved a long time ago. Durham is growing, but I got involved with, when I was in policing, I spent 29 and a half years with Durham Regional Police. I became interested in community policing, and so then it gave me an opportunity to find out and interface with local businesses. One example is working with the Downtown Board of Management in Oshawa, so that we could help manage what was going on for the shopkeepers in downtown Bowanville and keeping that area of the city protected. And then we were also involved in meetings with them on resources and how to redevelop the downtown business-wise and investment-wise. So that kind of started things. And then I became involved, Steve, with different environmental initiatives to protect the Oak Ridges moraine, which we live on out here. To me, it's very important that we protect both our ability to grow food, but also our ability to protect our safe groundwater supply. And with the pressures that happen provincially and locally, there's lots of challenges that way to make sure that we can keep those valuable resources clean and safely protected for the future as well as for right now. So that got me involved in interfacing with provincial, regional, and municipal councils, in making presentations, having meetings with staff as well as with the politicians that were in this area that had bearing on some of our concerns. And I spent probably a good 10 years at that and continue to. So it has gained interest for me in terms of what we can do and what I see happening since I retired 3 years ago. I see things changing even more socially than probably I'd like to see happen. But we have to work together, and I think we need to do it and use it and get involved with the decision making process. So here I am. I've jumped in both feet into the deep water, and I think we need to stand up and get people engaged in the political process and not shy away from it. So that's kind of a local brief history of how I got involved.
There's an incredible amount of growth in Bowanville Oshawa North. Describe some of the unique Bowanville Oshawa North issues that you intend to work to resolve if you're elected.
I think what we need to look at is how do we balance growth with infrastructure, with need, so that it's balanced with environmental protection. And I don't say that lightly. I think we really need to examine how fast we grow at at the federal level as well as at the provincial and local level. So it's a big topic, but it's a big concern for residents here in Durham as well. If we're fighting for resources and you know um, we're bringing people into our riding and our province and the GTA in particular faster than our services can keep up, then we really have to make sure that we um, reevaluate that pace. And so one of the things I'd like to do is make sure that um, we address that at the federal level, and do a balance between both. Provincially, the provincial government has wanted to open up more prime land, farmland, on the moraine and in the northern sections of this riding, um, and change the land usage to allow that to happen without really assessing the consequences of that. So growth has to be balanced, and I would continue to advocate for that, um, on those issues that I've already been involved with. Um, I've been involved with Hydro One and um, and landfill sites that have been popping up here in Durham region, and these landfill sites are used by companies out of town that are bringing contaminated landfill to this area and dumping it on our moraine. So I'll continue to work with that. Also, we need to protect our farmland, our Class 1 and Class 2 farmlands. I want to continue with that effort. Again, balancing against growth. If we're going to increase growth for housing and for other infrastructure, we only have so much arable and viable farmland in Class 1 and Class 2. So I will continue to work at that. Um, you mentioned, it's funny. We talk about communication here in this area, and do we need better cell service in Bowanville? We certainly do. I can attest to that, especially living in the rural part of Bowmanville, and I think we also need a better internet service. But I would like to see at the national level, like the CRTC. It needs to be opened up so that there's more competition, in my opinion, and to bring down the prices as well as invest in better cell service infrastructure. At the same time, I think we also should be looking at 5G in terms of health impacts. I don't think that we've got that cornered yet, but I think that needs to be examined before we jump in too far into 5G. But there's again a balance with that. So that's where I want to be involved with, and parkland is really important. And I know there are people like yourself that are concerned about the lakefront as well as our national parks. And how would I be involved in that? I would probably say that I would look into that. I can't give you a clear, concrete answer right now until I learn more about how the federal government can interface with the province and see where we can preserve that lakefront, because it is important. Otherwise, it is going to be developed much like Toronto. I'm not sure that's what people want here. I don't think they want that kind of similar development. But if we don't stand up and try and protect it, we'll lose it. So I would be willing to check into that and make sure that we can do everything we can to support those kinds of protections. We have marshlands down there. We need that biosphere protected, right? For a number of reasons. So I think those are basically things that I would address. But I'd also want to listen to be more available to listen what the local constituents are also, if there's other concerns that they have. And, I think town halls are a good way to do that. So we have an aggregate audience to tell us what's most important right now. And then we can prioritize our response to that. So I welcome that, because right now I'm not seeing that opportunity for the people in our writing have direct or collective input to either direct individually or collective input to reach the member of parliament in this writing. And I've experienced it myself. So yes, I welcome that kind of forum to be accountable to the residents here in Durham.
And so you've gone ahead and predicted and answered my next question about making yourself
Yes.
available for open house opportunities. Recently, I was greeted by locked and frosted doors when I approached the MP's office, and it didn't feel right. And I'm familiar, excuse me, with several MPs that I've associated with and worked with in the past who had regular open houses, and they too were conservative members of parliament, and monthly open houses that greeted people to get, just as you said, the feedback and how people are feeling right at this moment. And I think that's
Yes.
pretty valuable for an MP.
I agree with you, Steve, because I think we can do better in that area. And that's what I know that I commit to, because I'm used to doing that. Consensus is important to know how to be effective in responding and let people know what we can and can't do. Let's be honest. They need to know what their MP really, really is going to do. And, because I mean, we've had, we have to have communication, especially now. These are not normal political times. So I think we need to share what's going on in Parliament with our riding as well, give them feedback from that arena, and as well as listen to what their concerns, and then realistically tell them what we can really do. And I'm not opposed to making phone calls to my provincial MLAs, to say, hey, how can we problem solve some of these issues, right? We're not abstract in jurisdiction between federal and provincial. I mean, there's there's money to be sent to this region from the federal government in different areas of ministries. So I think we need to be connected that way, and we need to let our public know. So I think that would be very helpful, and I think people would get a better sense of what's going on, as opposed to, being exclusively unavailable sometimes. And yeah, I think that can be well improved, and you've seen it happen before, so we know it can be done, and I'll commit to that. And then secondly, if I can't be there, I'm in the house sitting. I'm going to select that is competent in knowing what the issues are and communicating with the people and following up with the people. So when there's questions that I'm not there to answer directly, that they'll be waiting for me when I come back to my writing. So, and that they would keep me updated on what kind of questions are current, and concerns, of course.
And you can only do that, so often, because then people will get the feeling that you're not actually listening if the assistant's always showing up. So, there you go. Clint, let's move on to the next question. And yeah. So without speaking of the deficiencies of any other parties or their positions or past approaches, how would the United Party of Canada approach the following things that make the United Party and Clint Cole the best choice for Bowanville Oshawa North and really Canada in 2025? So let's start with taxation. One thing that's on everybody's mind at this time of year, and
Yes.
And
Yes.
well, quite
Most.
frankly, in Canada, along with the weather, it's on everybody's mind all the time. So
That is so true, Steve. I think I think it's time to have a serious look at each portfolio of taxation. Um, the Auditor General's office has been short-staffed for years, and apparently we just hired another bunch of auditors to go through our taxes. Um, and it's time to go through all those accounts over the years, especially through the COVID times that we've just gone through, and see who has what in terms of asset base from tax access base, and then figure out who owns what, and then I think we can formulate the kind of tax incentives to support our families, as well as support business investment, and do it in proportionally. We can't just isolate or focus on one or two areas. We need to bring in business to the area as well as across the country. But at the same time, we also need to give families a chance through tax incentives or exemptions, young families in particular, that are struggling just to pay their bills. So I think we can be flexible, but to say what we can do until we do that assessment at the top, we need to make sure that we can give commitment to that at the right proportion. We're going to do it, but at this point, I can't tell you how that would look until I get my sleeves rolled up and get in there and see. But our tax system isn't favoring us as Canadians. I see more taxes on top of taxes and less services. That needs to be addressed seriously, and I think there's a lot of room for that we can make that work. And we also have to still realize how we need to balance our budgets, and do have good fiscal policy at the national level, so that it manifests itself as we go down into where the common person needs help, and make those resources available to them in the best way possible.
the environment for a party that's largely conservative, you break the mold a little bit by being a strong environmental activist. So, what is the party's approach to the environment?
I think the party's approach is again balance, and they're probably leaving it up to the individual MPs in their areas to work with their province, and their regional mandates of what they think should be done. So I think there's lots of work to do with that, and we need to partner with our regional local councillors to make sure that happens, as we look at the official plan. Okay, our official plan has we need to really understand that official plan is can be adapted and not fixed totally, but be responded to in terms of how we manage growth. So with my background in terms of this riding, I believe that I can really advocate for stronger environmental protections, even though historically perhaps the provincial government has tried to weasel into some of that territory. But we need to protect our resources, our farmland especially, and our natural resources. I don't believe in selling those out. No way. I think there's other options. There's other stops before we can get there. And I think our party will stand behind that as well, knowing how important that is, because food security is paramount. And so let's back that up with the support to our farmers, and let's keep our water clean, and consistent supply, so that we don't run out of things. They say, if someone is hungry for 3 days, for example, policy will soon change quickly if we run out of food. And I think that's what we don't want to get there. We don't want to get to that stop. So I think we need to really pay attention to that. So I'll do my best at making sure that we make that balance and make sure that I work with our local officials as well when people tell me that it's not working.
Healthcare is a provincial requirement and provincial responsibility, but the federal government spends a lot of money here to have some influence on the provincial policy.
Yes.
So what would the United Party of Canada approach to healthcare? Privatize it all or completely universal and accessible, which we seem to be wandering away from that a little bit.
Good question. Tough one, but needs to be answered. One of the first things I think our party and myself would do is our healthcare system is kind of on fire right now in terms of serving our constituents and our country. I would hire back. I would like to see our party wants to see hire back all workers that were turned out over COVID and give them an incentive to work. So we need to bring back those healthcare professionals to start with in terms of the, an upfront immediate thing to do. Okay. Because we still have healthcare workers that are not in their original jobs. And I think we also, we need to look at our healthcare model that we have, which in my opinion is formulated more for reactive than proactive health. I think we need to start looking at things. I see our government trying to go after, instead of supporting, but going after the National Health Product Protection Association. I think we should have other avenues of treatments and promote more preventative health than looking at simply what our hospitals, our clinics are going to respond to. And let's try and reduce by focusing on healthcare prevention, it should have an impact in terms of how many people show up at the hospital, sick with any kind of chronic ailment. So, well, not any kind, but certain kinds that could be prevented by using other interventions. And I don't think we're being that. I've been involved. I've been involved as a paralegal with supporting doctors, and I've got to know quite a few doctors who want to make this happen. But our regulatory bodies that are going after only one formula for healthcare. I think we need to take another look at that, and we would support any initiatives that way. So we have a comprehensive approach to healthcare. So that's where I would stand on that in the bigger umbrella category. But we do need to have healthcare, and I think also as an adjunct to that, I think our rate of immigration is impacting these services as well, and healthcare services. So let's tone that down so that it's reasonable. You can only there's so much of the pie you can give out. So where's the consumer end of that happening? And so that has to be balanced out. And so we need immigration, but at the rate it's happening and the way it's happening, I think it's not helping. It's actually increasing the taxing on our healthcare system beyond what we already had. So I think those are impact factors at the national level that we need to really address in a different way, in a different model.
Military. Again, we'll talk soon about the impact that Mr. Trump has had on government and policy and just how people feel. But one of the areas that has been impacted is military because of his interest in the North and Greenland and the apparent concern over border security. So, how would the United Party of Canada look at military and approach military spending, military management, that sort of thing?
Our military is vital for the protection of our country. If we're going to have a sovereign country, we need our military re-strengthened. It has been diminished in resources. My father was involved in the military for 30 years. And we have depleted those resources to the point where I don't know that we can protect ourselves. I don't think we can. Internationally, we have international interest in our country that, really like what we have here. We need to really guard and protect it. And we can't do it talking about it. We actually have to put the resources into the military because they're at an all-time low. And that will threaten our sovereignty, even and at the borders as well. We, I'm aware that we have international interests that are behind the scenes, and they're compromising our ability to protect what we have as Canadians. We have drug cartels right here in the GTA, and right here in our riding, and they're vying for a piece of the pie, but also they're socially taking a toll on our community in terms of community safety. And there's also a lot of these criminal organizations doing money laundering, and that money laundering is also being laundered through real estate in the GTA. So this isn't just a national concern about our border policies. It's about how our actual ridings are being impacted here along this close to the border here in Ontario. I think we can't ignore that. And to do that, I think we also need to bolster our Central Intelligence Services. Okay, because there's a lot of stuff. There's data breaches happening left, right, and center within the government even. So we've left that area of central intelligence become weak, and I know that through my involvement with them. So I think it's important that we look at. I think we, as a party, we do need to clean up our own backyard here. I think we need to really understand the forces that are behind the scenes that most people maybe not be aware of. But I was out canvassing this past week, and we're having drive-by shootings in North Oshawa, okay, that have happened, and that comes down to the riding level. And as a police officer, I mean, I've been a police officer through several terms of government. We talk about getting tough on crime. We have to be smart about that, and we need to give law enforcement those tools to do it. Particularly in this case with organized crime, that's a federal jurisdiction, and the RCMP are front and center in that fight in law enforcement, and they will work with other provincial and regional police services in combating that. But I don't think that that's happening near enough right now. So that's important in terms of public safety, which I've always been big on, because I've watched what's happened to our community when we don't have the resources to keep our community safe.
So, on the issue of equity, again, something that's been brought to our attention in the media a lot because of President Trump and his approach to it. Where is the United Party on equity?
Well, to be honest with you, equity is something that I think is causing division, and it's more race-based and hyper poking hyper attention on the racial issues. We're in this country. This country is a mosaic of nationalities, and I think we're overemphasizing and pushing this division by making equity, the number one new approach to society here. I think in our party we want to bring back the merit-based system. So in other words, right from in our school system, you must earn your grades to pass, right? You must work hard and have performance evaluations that are appropriate for you to be promoted. Um, I guess relating back to when we talked about the healthcare system, would you want a doctor looking after you under the equity program, or someone that has been properly studied, qualified with standards of medical practice, and earned their degree with a standard that you'd be comfortable with them working on you? I think it comes home to that kind of thing, and nothing against bringing people in, but if we when we bring people in and of all color, and the people that are here, we can't sacrifice our standards just to appease an equity approach. But I'm not saying that. I think we have a lot of people that want to come to this country from all races, from all over the world. I don't think we need to. I think we're pretty reasonable, benevolent people, and we welcome that. That's part of our mosaic. So let's not take it in another direction as far as we're concerned.
I think if from the time of the beginning of migration between countries, if we had just stuck with the merit-based system from the beginning, there wouldn't be issues of racism and cultural bias, because we'd truly be accepting people for who they are and what they're able to do. But I think that was used against people for so long in a negative way that
Yes.
we need to reclaim that and perhaps repair some damage as well at the same time. On our final issue, in terms of the party positions, abortion, we've been without a law around abortion for quite a long time. When the Supreme Court charged the federal government to develop a new law, that hasn't happened. So what is the United Party of Canada's approach to the abortion issue?
Our party's position is strong, and it's pro-life. There are exceptions to individual cases of abortion. I think we can reasonably address excuse me, within the context of that any particular case. But I think we believe in the sanctity of life. We should be promoting life. We should be giving resources to young mothers, whether they're whether they have family supports or whether they don't, so that abortion isn't an automatic default position. We're not even in this country. We're not even sustaining our birth rate. And why is that? Well, there's other factors too in terms of the economy and that. But we need to really, Steve, I think our family values and supporting our families is so important on the front end, because without strong families, we won't have strong communities, and we'll have our future generations going off in different directions that are not going to be productive for our country and interfacing with the law. We need to give our families support, and right now they're hurting. I know that. And again, we talked about it earlier in terms of tax incentives, breaks on mortgages, rates, and that kind of thing, and give those parents the supports they need, and not interfere with that. I think we need to really give them support, and not also tell them how to parent. I think it's important that we recognize their position in creating the family values that we can build better communities with. And I've seen it in my previous career. I've seen broken families, and I've seen the fallout from that, and I've seen what that creates to the community. we really have to make sure that if we can support our families and make stronger families, we'll have less impact on the judicial system at the tail end, at the reactive end. Because I'll tell you, right now, it's almost catch and release in the criminal justice system. So to think that we're going to get tougher by having tougher laws, that's one facet of it. But at the same time, we need resources to go to the law enforcement to clamp down on crime, but also we need to be even going at the root cause and say, let's build our families up stronger so that we don't have that symptom that we think we can fix by having tougher laws. We do, but let's not make that the only focus.
A common criticism of the pro-life movement is that it's actually pro-birth, but it doesn't actually work to support the life of the young children and the families that are trying to raise them. So the idea of having more resources available is really important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I think.
Clint, thank you very much for joining me here today for really part one of our conversation. How can people learn more about you and the United Party of Canada and your campaign?
Steve, they can search my name, Clint Cole, on the website, but probably the fastest way is to go right to the unitedpartyofcanada.ca website, and you'll see they've put on their website all candidates across Canada, and with bios and pictures and that kind of thing. And then also, if there are any individual concerns during this campaign, I have my campaign email, which is Clint's UPC campaign at gmail.com. So that's Clint's UPC, that stands for United Party of Canada, campaign at gmail.com. And you can reach out with any kind of concerns you may have or questions, and I'll endeavor to get back to you. And short of that, we're still campaigning out there. And I hope to bump into some more people out there and have good discussions like we have been. I think this is not ordinary political times. This is a movement that's happening, and we're gaining traction for a shift. And so I'll continue to talk to people and share what values our party has. And if people are ready for change, then I want them to check out this party.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me here today and meeting me at Exit 425.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate this opportunity.